to be fair. Boom! You can't time it correctly because we're live.
Waffle dick.
Can't be stopped. Can't stop. Won't stop. And I watched the full Granger's ad that I just gave. You know what I mean? When I have an ad, I respect that ad, and I love it, and I like it.
I bit Brad somewhere in that. There we go.
I decided to make us look goofy today because I wanted to show the
Give
stats.
Brad a little bit of this.
I mean, nope, other side. There you go. You got a power nugget me. KR starts it off correctly. Congratulations to Kyle, the winner of the Mayhem Murder Kung Fu Master Monkey Fights Ninja Championships.
You got this incorrect, Brad. Back-to-back defending undisputed universal win.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't. So you're back-to-back. Nice.
Yes. Last year I won the cool axe. This year I won the cool bolter.
I did.
We also won the golden ticket. But
Kyle 100% congratulations on that. Good job, my friend. That was a tough road to hoe to get through that to make it to where you did. So congratulations. Good job.
Thank you.
We did things and or stuffs. That's bullshit. Working out, Brad doesn't pump you up the same way Lady Gaga does. There's that. You know what? I feel violated by you saying that. I'm hurt.
I will say that Brad can help you #stay hard though.
It's true.
That part's accurate.
I am a blue pill.
And you know what Brad's also good at? Reminding people to like and subscribe to the channel.
2 minutes in.
Not good at that.
Who are you for saying that 2 minutes into the stream?
I had to try it at least once to get it in early.
It's all good.
So it was a wild weekend all over the place. This meta is out of control.
Oh, dude, I'm excited to talk about this, to be honest with you, because we've got lists that are winning super majors that everybody else is doing poorly with, that we've been saying a while. There's a lot of stuff, man. Kyle did call me out on the way back because I adjusted my list that I'm going to take. So speaking of that, I should probably submit a list for Rocky Top, but I wanted to make some changes, and I talked to the guys about the list I was going to take, and I wanted to make some changes, and I really got excited about a new version of the list, and I was like, I really want to play this today. He's like, pretty sure you can't just randomly show up with a new list on the last day of a tournament. I'm like, I feel like I should, though.
I do want to say, we have been at a 6-round tournament where someone did play a different list on day 2 than they did on day 1.
That is true. That is that has happened. That is funny.
It has happened.
Thank you for saying you enjoyed watching me. I always try to have fun on stream. So I want to
Actually, it was a good stream, a lot of good sportsmanship shown by you and your opponents. That was a good beacon of the 40K universe.
Made a good time, I thought.
What I want to know, Brad, is the amount of minutes that you are holding a glass of or a cup of wine on stream at Rocky Top going to be higher than the amount of minutes that you did it this weekend? Because that number was surprisingly low.
I couldn't. They didn't have drinks inside. I credit to that me losing. I credit that to me losing a game. I had no wine. I cannot unlock my powers without wine during 40K. It also just feels weird playing like super sober. I felt like I was in some weird 12-step program or something. Like, I was just like wildly drinking Dr. Peppers like it was my job, though.
We didn't have wine, but we did have completely safe and not warm sandwiches that I didn't forget in a cooler.
Okay, so one of us, I'm saying this right now. So Kyle does a great job. We go to his place, we get make a bunch of sandwiches, bring a bunch of drinks, and we've got everything. And I'm like, all right, let's get the cooler and load it in the car for the next day. I'm assuming we put everything in the fridge and we're going to make some new sandwiches, get some more drinks. He's like, no, I just left the cooler at the event. I go, dude, it's just going to be wildly warm and the food's all going to be spoiled. He's like, oh, it'll probably be fine. I had like 5 ice cubes in that cooler. It's only been 24 hours. What could happen? I'm like, well, I'd like to see you eat some of those sandwiches. It'd be fantastic. I, however, will be doing anything else.
I am reasonably confident that neither of you are financially well off enough that you can turn down questionable lunch meat.
These were extremely warm sandwiches. The cooler is it's not the name it should be called. It should be called the mid warmer, because that's what it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was what it was.
Congratulations to both of you on your showings this weekend. Brad did come in 4th place in that tournament, which was a great showing. He didn't officially come in Brad place.
If you lose a game, I told you, I already know. You ain't first or last.
That's right. I'm surprised your wife let you in the house, to be honest with you.
I didn't tell her the end. I just told her I went undefeated day 1. That is true.
Maybe that's part of why he stayed in North Carolina so long.
Corey would have ate those sandwiches for sure. Corey Gulch, right there. He's literally bought sushi out of a dude's trunk at like 3 a.m. I'm like, this might be the unsafest food ever eaten ever. So
yeah, it was probably
the
fine.
Weekend, dude. I did not know. I'm going to talk about Mayhem real quick, so I want to give those guys props. Dean, the whole group, as a whole, JD from Way Games, given all the terrain. They had a ton of people working. They had a ton of people judging. They had great space. It was so nice to have actual space between tables. Each table was its own individual deal. They had a ton of judges working. They had a ton of people up front. They had food. They had drinks. And it was just a really well done event. It flowed really easy. Everything was super nice. Joe is there. You're doing a great job, as he always does. I just want to give a shout out to that. So I would recommend going to Mayhem again. It was a great event. They gave a ton of prize support away. They did it. My favorite way was fast. They gave a ton of prizes away, but they didn't just have, walk up, talk, take 53 pictures. It was, hey, go to the table, grab what you want, next guy. But they gave away a ton of prizes. They gave away top 3s in almost every faction and stuff. So everybody got a something, lots of players got different prizes. I just really like tournaments like that, and I want to make sure that people get a shout out and get props when they do a really good job. I really enjoyed it. It's my first time there, and I loved it. Also, I didn't know that apparently the North Carolina meta is a bunch of bloodthirsty psychos because they played only melee armies.
Where do you think Kyle and I are from?
You guys are
only play melee armies.
Insane people. I literally played 3 world leaders, Slanesh demons, blood angels, and bully boy orcs were my 6 games. And it was just like everybody's looking to punch me in the neck. It was crazy.
I just want to point out, Kyle's first armies were White Scars and I think Space Wolves. My first army was Blood Angels. Like we only punch people in North Carolina. It's just part of being a country boy. You punch people in the face.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is in the water here, but it makes you violent.
Apparently, I was just like...
It explains Mark Perry a whole lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, true story. Who I just messaged for orcs, by the way, for the weekend.
And so, looking at the meta, guys, as we move on, Thousand Suns had a remarkably strong weekend.
I think we were talking about this. I think the Thousand Suns are the scariest army in the game because they can put out the most damage in the game. They can fall apart like a house of cards. We've talked about this several weeks. I'm not surprised at all for this win rate because they're also really, really good into armies, especially these infantry armies that just don't have a ton of wounds out there. Double Doombolt will shut your army down in a second, So they play really well against a lot of this stuff. You're looking at, go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask, do Bully Boys handle Double Doombolt well enough with Double Law?
Well, yes and no, but what they don't deal with is double half movement, half advance, half charge. So they can get shut down really badly. It really depends on the transport situation if they kill that really quick. because if they can shut them down, and the Thousand Suns can shut the Bully Boys down and basically wait out those 2 wogs, then that mortal wound damage is just going to eat you up because there's no funeral pains left on that. And if you can shut that down and basically focus on the knob squads and stuff like that, you're going to think that things like Beast Boys only have, Beast Nugget Boys, if you're taking those, only have 1 wound. The knobs only have 2 with no protection at all. Mass Bro Effect 49 Super Chat. Only one thing Brad likes more than orcs. U of M, go blue. God, there's so many of me saying that. The Ohio State fans are going to murder me. But
you should just keep saying Bo Glue instead.
Yeah, but hey, I give the people what they want. So
fair.
But with Thousand Suns, it's that army is only capped really by the skill of the player. And the thing is that it's so terrifying because that army, like we were talking about it over the week with a couple of players, and I was saying when you're playing against Thousand Suns, you're like, hey, what are you going to score? I'm like, somewhere between a 20 and a 0, because sometimes, the mission's right, you can get into them, you start touching things, and all of a sudden their cabal points go down. Other times they get double slowed down, some cultists get in your way, and you stand there and get obliterated, and Magnus drops elbows off the top ring on you. A ladder match.
So I played T-Suns in the last round, and there was multiple times that I had to be like, you're going to have to explain whatever you just said again. And then after that, one more time, because it's not a real rule at all. There's so many things that the army does that just don't make sense in 40K currently, that once you learn how it functions, and like once your cabal management is super like down and fundamental, you could just play it in such a different way that every other army functions. You just crush people who don't know what's happening. Triple movement's a real thing with flamers that just show up somewhere where you were trying to screen and just blow you off that side of the map.
I mean, they have stuff that's just so out of phase, and they can do things that nobody else can do. You're like, hey, remember when you didn't have armor saves? Remember when I double moved? Remember when I hit you with 2 doom bolts, which ignore everything because they're not an actual shooting attack, so they can ignore things like lone op. So they can just pick things up, They've got a lot of things that people just can't do. Oh, hey, how about if I just make all of my 6s devastating wounds? Seems good, So that's just a really big... The damage out of that army is just crazy. And you saw a lot of people playing. We had 53 players, 318 games played. I think that's a big deal on that. So 2 tournaments on that. They did really well. They had a decent amount of X and 1s. I think that army is here to stay. I think it's really just people learning to play it, because playing against is always really difficult. There's only so many things you can do. Their ability to manage you with double slowdown is just crazy too. You know what I mean? Locking down 2 units is crazy. And you can do it so aggressively because you can run up, slow 2 people down, and bounce one of those guys back, with a double move. And the double move happens in the shooting phase, so it's just crazy. You can actually screen people out and then move. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that Thousand Suns can do that nobody else can do, like Kyle was saying. It's just, you have to really go through that, but it's the skill of the person. I have to give the hats off to the Thousand Suns guys. It's a difficult army to play. Now, let's talk about an army that can rickroll you sometimes. Space Wolves. Oh!
Off into wolf jail. Space Wolves are really good in that Stormlance detachment. It's very tough to deal with. If you're not ready for it and you don't understand how to screen correctly, they can pick you up real fast.
Hold on. Someone explain to me how 2 people playing Champions of Rust went X and 1 this weekend.
Hey, man.
Where did that come from?
Skills, baby. Skills to pay the bills.
Yep. Happens sometimes.
Sometimes you got to rock and roll it. But the thing is that it depends on what you're playing on. That Stormlance with the Space Wolves, Wolf Jail, it's a nasty army. It's just one of those, did you take enough trash in your army? And if your answer is no, you're probably going to have a tough time, because if they can get right on top of you real fast, and it's really hard to dislodge them. Now, they have a lot of points in that. Like, the Thunderwolves may be undercosted. I don't even know if they are, but I like what we're saying in the chat here, because the characters aren't undercosted, and you have to bring quite a few characters. You're bringing 2 characters per unit just to make those things operate. So I don't think that they're really undercosted. They have a lot of points in those packages, So if they get caught up, if you're screening them out, and not making them interact, cutting down on their activations, that army can really get bogged down. It can get big wins, but it can also get some pretty big losses if it's held down. Like, I mean, I saw Sam play it, Pope against it before, and he just literally made a gargoyle line in front of that army, and they just kind of stood there for 3 turns in a row. Yeah, I mean, that army can get parking lotted. So,
and you can precision that army pretty well as well.
Yeah, you need the guys. You need those lethals and stuff for sure. Especially the Wolfguard battle leaders are amazing there. So, yep, 100% 1+. Yeah, it's just crazy shit. You'll love getting picked up by some Snurgle Mat. They are. The characters are crazy. I mean, it's a very difficult, damaging list. It's just one of those lists that's huge bases that can't go through walls, that has its own issues. So it's a little bit scissors paper rocky, but I see a lot of lists are going to having just more stuff on the board, so you can deal with those things a little bit easier. You need some units when you're making your list, when you're looking what to play for the weekend metas. You really, really have to have, how am I blocking out? How am I making sure a first turn rapid ingress doesn't happen against that army? How am I making sure who's standing between the 2 walls to make that big unit not come through here? You have to have that, and you have to have more than one, to be honest with you, because you have to do it you have to do it 2-3 turns in a row. And it doesn't mean your whole army has to be trash, but you have to have enough trash to make it so everything doesn't hit you at the same time. Oh, we're going to get to that. I'm just scrolling down Meta Monday. So, Joey, you know what I mean? Because we're going to talk about the tile.
Oh, I'm ready to talk about tile, Brad.
Lyle was crying huge crocodile tears, and I had to comfort him. I played Sarah McLaughlin. We hugged it out. Squigs are my trash.
Brad, you're not tall enough to hug me.
I actually take my squigs out. I'm sad that I take my squigs out. I have mad trash in my list now. I realized that I didn't have a Brad appropriate amount of trash in my army, and now I do. So I upped my trash for Rocky Top. So I'm gonna bring more stuff. I did like Warhorde quite a bit. We'll talk about that in a minute with the orcs. Genestealers literally doing wildly better. I think you're gonna still see that. Brian, you and I were talking about this a decent bit on this. I think the Genestealer cult is a really nasty army. It's another army where if you make some mistakes, though, shit can really hit the fan, because there's a lot of things that are not very durable in the army, and you can lose just huge swaths of your army. But it has so many tricks. It has so many ways to be all over the army, all over the board with the army. 3-inch deep strikes, obviously regenerating guys, whole units coming back, bouncing everything. They have a volume of shots. I think the Genestealers are going to continue to be at 50-some%, because you're seeing so many more infantry-driven armies. With chaos
primarily being played by their faction specialists as well. We continue to say, if you are specialized in a faction, you can do better with them than someone else can who's just picking them up. It's a key. Kyle can equate to this with his Chaos Demons.
I have a tendency to not pay attention to stuff unless it directly involves me. Were there any interesting Genestealer cult informations this weekend with the release date announcement? Did they tease any rules or anything like that? Or
they didn't tease any rules, but there is Megamind coming out, as I'm going to refer to him from now on. They've got a new character coming out, and he honestly looks like Megamind from the cartoon series.
Sometimes you gotta have Megamind, man.
Yeah, absolutely. They say that he's the rules thing they gave him is basically he's a heavy psi shot thing. He's supposed to be the anti-tank answer for the army.
So why are things like Genestealer cults suddenly coming back?
It's the meta's good for them. The meta is much better for them. The more basically people walking, the Genestealers are better at it because they put down a huge volume. So you're getting these lists like the new Chaos list, the new Orc list. Even Thousand Suns brings just a lot of guys. You know what I mean? You're seeing less
fight first.
Yeah. Yep. And you're just volume just does really well. But also, I think a lot of these armies are people are coming back to a lot of things that they like to play. And you're seeing that happen more, because I think that a lot of people were trying to just catch the wave of whatever. And now you're seeing more people going, hey, the meta's starting to be in a place where I can just bring what I really like to play. And I think you're going to see more of that. Also, there's Megamind. But I think that you're going to see more and more of that. I'm actually really excited to see what we get when we get the new missions, because I think that the missions change everything more than anything else. You know what I mean? Because you have to build your armies to play those missions, so it's a big deal about that. So
I just want to see capture enemy outposts get a clause that you can't draw it on the first turn. That's all I want.
100%. That's so annoying.
Tons of people can do it.
I've done it 3 times in tournament games with Tyranids.
Do you think that means we should still have it be a baseline thing?
Yes.
No, but it's fun.
You Kyle.
I think it should have the option to shuffle it back into your deck and draw a new card, but it shouldn't be have to draw just do it.
I do still think that I would love to see us be able to purchase for your army things that did interacted with the missions, you know, being able to throw something away or draw another card and stuff like that. I would pay, you know, an enhancement to be able to just draw another card at every turn. Something, you know, that's pretty huge, but
or maybe once.
They have in Age of Sigmar, at least in old Age of Sigmar, I don't know anything about the new one, but they had like universal enhancements that you could buy for every army could buy these enhancements, and then you had your own army specific ones. That'd be cool if they had little commander type things, like you could discard a card once a game or something like that. That'd be kind of cool.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that at all. I would like more of that to happen. So let's talk about my orcs, because I always like talking about my orcs. Orcs did well.
Someone put up the Toby Keith. It's time to talk about me. Time to talk about I.
Tons of Bully Boys played. Tons of Green Tide played. Some more Horde played. We had way more Dread Mob than I thought we were gonna have. They did kind of what I thought they were gonna do. Cold of Speed still has legit play, man. The Big Hunt, I'm still a little disappointed with that. The Prey seems meh. But Warlord, Green Tide, and Bully Boys interchangeably, I think those lists are really good. And you can play them wildly differently. Because we've been practicing both. Obviously, my list is Warhorde. I've been practicing that. But like we've been practicing again with and against Green Tide and Bully Boys. And all of those armies seem so different in their play. And they're all super viable at tournaments. I think the Orcs is a great
I do want to
card.
say the number of times in chat yesterday that people on Joe's stream were asking why you weren't playing Bully Boys, or if it was a typo that you were playing Warhorde, was pretty hilarious.
Like, look, both have different gameplay, different strats. Brad was just using their strengths for Warhorde.
Do I like Green Tide or Bully Boys better? I think Green Tide's the best army in the Orc Codex by far. I just can't play it because I would actually die if I played that many models for an entire weekend right now. So, but I just think it's the safest. Bully Boys probably has the highest upside because you can just dominate, especially people that don't have screens. You can just get into people's armies, and with 3 units of Mega Knobs with 2 up saves and 4 up final pains, especially if you get the big mech with one of them, it's just a hassle to get rid of those guys, and they can just pin you and get a huge win. I think that Green Tide's just the most consistent because they can take the board. They have the Weird Boys, the jumping big squads. They have the ability to regen guys. They have surge. They have plus to the charge. When they do the Weird Boy to jump, they can just fairly reliably steal an objective. They also have reroll, the enhancement for rerolling your charge. So you can make a charge at +2, +3, +4, +5, and re-roll it so you can reliably get and steal. That's an army that can really take somebody's home objective later in the game, is Green Tide. So I think that that's the most consistent of the orcs. It's not the most exciting of the orcs because you're just playing a horde army. And the thing is that it can be stalled down. It can be parking lotted. And with just any horde kind of can. But the bigger thing is that You got to be good at playing hordes, man. You can get clocked pretty hard anytime you're playing a horde. So you have to be. Go ahead.
So
you have to
I don't know who's talking.
The horde. You have to know how to move quickly, understand distances, how to pile in, how to do combat. It is an involved process, and you need to have your pace going. You can't be looking up rules while you're doing it. You have to be on top of it and know everything your army does. It's definitely something for knowing your army to play at a high level.
So do you think moving forward, do you think orcs are going to be the best army in the game for a bit once people understand them more?
Yes and no. In my personal opinion, I think they're a very, very good army, but like it depends on what you're playing at, what the mission. Like this weekend, I'm going to a player place terrain tournament, and I think the army gets wildly weaker if it can't go from terrain to terrain to terrain. So it's going to be much weaker at events like that. And it's going to see what the meta. It does have real problems with people that can move block them and slow them down, especially with the bully boys. If you can basically put enough trash in front of bully boys, if you're playing a green tide, if you're playing Tyranid horde, if you're playing guard with tons of squads, and you can wait out 2 turns of a wog, it becomes much, much harder for the orc player to dominate. Is it still a great codex? Yep. It's going to do really, really well. I don't think it's going to be an issue. Obviously, I'm always going to be biased on that because I just like playing orcs. So, but I don't think it's an issue army right now. I just think it's a very good army.
And we'll see how they handle the Chaos Space Marines with the points updates that'll drop at some point this week. And where that falls versus them, I think that's going to be a resounding thing to see how that lines up.
Yeah.
Orcs seem like the big bully shadow in the darkness that you can see, and then there's like a bigger bully in the background of CSM just stomping in. Yeah,
I think the things that I've seen people post up for CSM feel like they're just going to swamp the orcs. So I might be wrong, but like it feels like they're going to be really good against that. It's just if you can clear a lot of things, it's a big deal. Probability Tooler super chat. Give the people what they want, Brad. Go blue. I love it.
and I think sisters also fight against orcs really well because they can trade.
Oh, arcoflagellants and stuff. They can really just get in there, but they have so much stuff, and the sisters can just play the game. Hey, I've been stalling you for a while, but I've also been scoring max points. Kyle got that over the weekend with the sisters when he's just like, I don't think the dude was doing anything, but he was still putting up tons of points. I don't know what's happening.
Also, they did way more damage than I thought they were going to.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that that's a real stat line that one sister with a chainsword has.
Yeah.
I think you meant you meant the Blade of Eleanor. So yeah, it was good times.
Speaking of orcs, before we end on it, I spent a lot of time prepping for this tournament specifically with my list building into orcs, expecting to play either you or Michael or somebody in the top on orcs, and then completely dodged it. So it's perfect.
True story on that. We were worried about Kyle's list against orcs, and he was just like, how about I just cloak that up and just know? So it was a big thing. Necrons are doing exactly what I thought they were doing. I think they're going to stay here forever. If they stay here forever, it'll be perfect.
Yeah, they're going to continuously run between 50 and 55. I think they're fine. Yeah. They don't need any changes or adjustments. They're good where they're at.
Yeah. It was huge on that. You know what I want? On a real random side note, because as usual, I can't be stopped from tangenting. I would like to see the missions be more consistent turn by turn by turn. We have so many missions that you can score like 1,000,000 points. Oh, Jesus. You know what? Hi, Bradley Chester from Lyle Dixon. I have no idea who this idiot is. $5 here, chat. Hi, Bradley Chester, being a free-willed sound mind, renounce my OSU and Raiders Nation fandom and swear fealty to a Appalachian State and the Panthers. I like how you chose teams that weren't even.
North Carolina had an effect on you while you were there.
Oh, it had an effect
very
on me.
reasonable.
I didn't realize that everyone was a bloodthirsty monster down here. I just didn't know.
I just want to get stuck in. We're true orcs down here.
I didn't know that everybody was already they called WOG before they entered the building, apparently. It just came at me. Yeah, that is true. Me renouncing my Raider fandom would be a huge quality of life improvement. You're not wrong. Every season I get about halfway through and just get mad at football in general. So
Drukhari had a tournament win this weekend with Scary, right?
Drukhari, the Splinter Assault is just good. I mean, Kyle, you played two of them this weekend.
Yeah, he played two of them on his way to winning. Like they were in the winners bracket. So
I played back to back, the end of day one and the beginning of day two.
Yeah, I mean, I did like your description of it too. I feel that there was several mentions of clapping my cheeks and other things that were said.
The third game, I was getting my lunch fed to me, and it was just a real bad game. And then suddenly, at the end of supply drop, I scored 38 points. I was like, well, sometimes that happens. See ya. My opponent was great. He was super proficient with his army. He knew Drukhari very well, and he put me in a corner and kept beating me up, and it was awful.
The army just has so many tools. Now, it's very fragile, you know what I mean? And there's certain turns where it feels bad when your opponent draws no prisoners and bring it down. You're like, well, welcome to Maxville, population you. But you have so many things to jam and move block. You can really take up the board. You can take up a lot of space. Again, in an infantry, looking more and more infantry meta, having anti-infantry 2 and anti-infantry 3 on everything is a huge deal because they can just put a volume of wounds on you. And I don't care what your save is. If somebody makes you take enough of them, you'll lose a shit ton of guys, you know? So they've got the ability. Now, that's another army that's just difficult to pilot. I played it in Arkansas, and I really enjoyed it. But the wheels can fall off it. But it has play. I really like where that army is. It has a high skill cap, but it is very, very fun. And I think it's pretty balanced. So I'd like to see them get a little bit more when their book comes out, of course. And they need to have Azure effect.
It functions just like Chaos Knights. Like, and people who love the faction and stay with it are going to know how to play it really well. And it's going to be terrifying.
100%, Corey. The high skill cap, very punishing on mistakes. Huge. It's a big deal on me. So that Death Guard doing what Death Guard doing. Basically, Death Guard and Death Guard and Grey Knights are two armies that play wildly different. I'm doing it at the same time because I think both of the armies have found their sweet spots. I think Grey Knights are going to continue to be at 50, and I think that Death Guard are going to keep winning at 50. They are just good. I think people are going to realize how good they are when you go, hey, Plague Marines are bonkers, but like for the points, those guys are so ridiculously good. You jam them on a point, hey, I'm going to fight first after I threw my grenade. And, oh yeah, I'm going to have double exploding 5s and lethals. And I don't cost that much. And there's a guy 4 to 6 inches behind me that says you get a -1. So now you're -2 to hit. You're like, oh, this sounds terrible.
Yep. And Imperial Knights had a surprise this weekend where they jumped up fairly rapidly onto the scene, up to 49% from their lower end of things.
I still think
I just want to say, as someone who's tried to play Imperial Knights, I absolutely hate what the army's turned into. It's not what I want to do with Imperial Knights. Because, like, the list that's winning, or the list that have been winning, is just Canis Rex and then, like,
and little guys. Yeah, you want to see the big boys.
And I don't want to play that.
It's just, well, they need to take back, legitimately, they need to just take back all of the nerfs they got. The points and the bondsman nerfs.
The bondsman's nerf's the biggest one.
Yeah, but I'm saying both. I'm saying
the inability to benefit from your own bondsman just makes some of them useless.
I'm just saying it's one of those things where I think that they should have rolled that stuff back and they'd be in a way better place and be fine. I don't even think they're bad. It's just that they have spiky matchups. I mean, this is an army that really doesn't want to see certain things in the meta. Like, you know what Imperial Knights don't want to play a bunch of? Bully boys. Twin link kill saws everywhere, just murdering that army. So, and they can't do anything to them as they're taking 2 up saves and 4 up pains, just going, yeah, we're gonna chop knights in half. Yep. So Templars do what Templars do.
Yep.
50%.
The best of the Space Marine factions currently.
Well, they've been the best for obviously it was in there, but these guys have been just so consistent forever. I think they're just going to keep being this. You're going to see more. Some of these factions, I think, are going to see splintering off because people that play multiple things might not keep playing Templars as other things become more playable. I think that Templars were just catching all of the people that play Marines a lot that weren't super focused on one faction. They were just catching everybody. And if that isn't the case, I think you're going to see less people playing them.
Yeah. Although I think Blood Angel's Son, the Sanguinius detachment, is gaining popularity as we've seen an increase in the number of players.
Dude, that thing's so nuts.
Continue to ride.
I just want to go on the record as Brad telling me to my face, yeah, Blood Angels are fine, but they're probably not good enough to ever win a GT. And then they're out here making Brad sweat his ever-loving life.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is I don't think that another hand-to-hand army is obviously their weakness. You know who's their weakness is? People that can put them at a distance. Anybody that can work with a jab is Blood Angel's weakness. That's the thing. If they could only play hand-to-hand armies, Blood Angels, I think, are probably the best hand-to-hand army in the game right now. Not even close. It's just they don't have the staying power forever if you just put a volley of shots into them over multiple turns. So that's their weakness. I still think they can make.
And Astra
Corey coming in with a not crawly. We haven't had a not crawly in forever.
Yeah, Astra
He hasn't been on for us to do it.
Yeah, he's been all over the country. That's part of the reason why.
Bad takes. What is my bad take? I thought my takes were awesome today.
So Astra Militarum keep creeping down and down because every time they find a list, Games Workshop seems to want to kick it in the teeth.
Yeah, the problem is that, especially on GW terrain, if you're playing UKTC terrain or playing player place terrain, I think that IG is going to be still doing well. It's just we're seeing less of those, especially in the States now, because we're playing less on player place terrain and more on set pieces of terrain. And the IG lists are significantly worse there. And yes, they do keep getting kind of kicked in the teeth on it also.
I would like to say this has nothing to do with meta or anything, but if you're playing Astra Militarum and they keep getting nerfed and you're sad about it, you have to wonder, you're already a human in real life. Why do you want to play a human?
That's why I don't like them.
Because big giant tanks are
go join the army if you want to.
Because it's way easier to take care of 24 plastic horses than it is to take care of 24 real ones. Obviously.
Also very fair.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Well done.
So, Dark Angels literally had people playing them in every single detachment in Space Marines. This is wild. I mean, just, hey man, I'm going to play any detachment. I feel like half of there was so many people that were played by 1 or 2 players. I feel like everybody had got lost a bet with somebody and was like, how can you do with First Company? Take Anvil Siege Force and see how it works out. There was just so many random things played. So it's a big deal in that. The list with the Shroud and the Planes and the Redemptors is still just nasty. That thing can just put down a huge amount of damage. It can really alpha strike you. Now that Hellblasters are cheaper, Azrael with a unit of Hellblasters is bonkersville. Those guys put down the pain. They always have. It's just now that they're efficiently costed. It's nice.
And of course, Tyranids had a phenomenal weekend. With taking the Dallas Open. Congratulations to Sam Pope on piloting his unending swarm list to the top there.
He's doing great with that. He's been doing great with that
since January.
Yeah. He's been rocking it up for
most. Did Tyranids have an awesome weekend, or did Sam Pope exclusively have an awesome weekend?
Sam had a really good weekend on his own, right?
Yeah.
Well, the unending swarm players won 18 out of their 22 games total, so I feel like they're fine. I don't think it's just Sam.
No,
Synaptic Nexus did really well. I mean, it was really good. Now
Tyranids have played, but go ahead.
Although the Vanguard detachment did go X and 1 at a big event, if you build only into that detachment, its secondary pieces aren't that great. The assimilation swarm is just not very good, Invasion fleet suffers sometimes because it just loses some of those key pieces, and Crusher Stampede's not going to do really well.
That's not real. It's not a real detachment. Stop saying that. But
Skitarii Hunter cohort had a decent weekend.
That the Horde army, I mean, if you can make a Horde army, it's usually a safe bet that you're going to win a decent amount of games because a lot of lists cannot deal with Horde. Yep. If you just push people back and don't let them get on objective and score your points, you know, even if your army gets put in the wood chipper, you're putting up a big score. Or you could be like Kyle all weekend. You know what, Lyle? You have to give your boy credit. I went over to Kyle's games, and for, I think, 4 or 5 of his 6 games, he was parked inside of his opponent's deployment zone. And when I say inside, I'm not talking the line. He was like, it looked like he started there. He was just so far in. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Kyle's winning right now because no one is touching an objective except for him, which seems like a better way to play. So,
yeah, I don't want to talk about Kyle. I want to talk about this Chaos Space Marine on this list.
Why?
Do you guys see how many people play Chaos Space Marines on this Meta Monday?
Apparently 2 billion.
They got over 2,200 games in with Chaos Space Marines this weekend.
There may have been a time.
God forbid that codex is busted.
No, that's a luckily it's not a real number.
Yeah, it was 224, but you know.
It's 1,016 out of 2,224 is 46%. So the maths, right? So
except for the players would have had to play in like 50-man GTs or 50-game GTs.
There's only 49 players.
Yes.
49 players times a minimum of 5 rounds each.
Yeah,
you're right. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, feel free. Feel free to explain how that works out.
Math's not so good.
That guy's a teacher.
The math is right on the other half of the line.
Yeah, but
I just want to point out, regardless, Chaos Space Marines currently suck, and people are still playing them. I'm just wanting to say, if they go back to being busted and in a more accessible way than playing 3 units of Accursed Cultists, then it's going to be just as bad as if Orcs are busted.
Yeah, I mean
they're going to show up immediately.
They're going to show up immediately in the meta because they're going to be an interesting build. They have 3 detachments that seem very playable, a 4th one that seems okay. They're going to fall into that mid-50s win rate while people figure out what they do. And then it'll probably dip back down to the low 50s. I think they're going to be just fine.
It's all about points, man. If they come in aggressively pointed, the detachment rules are good enough that they can be kind of silly.
Raiders and Oath are, if those come in at pointed well, those guys are nuts. You know, again, it's going to be points. Lyle just made me decide to send my kids to private school.
Look, man, how many? I'm literally a math teacher. How many people do you know that can do that percentage in their head and get it right? That's all I'm saying. I didn't look at the other number. I looked at the 2 numbers, did the math. I was like, well, that works.
Well, I can do the math. It's something like 224,000 people.
Something like 46%. Yeah.
Custodes crushing it.
Creeped up. I think they're on the cusp of people who are their specialists, who are dedicated to playing them, figuring out what works and doesn't work for the army list. I don't think they're going to be
you could replace the word specialist, Brian, with people who own 3 Caladius.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
I mean,
but the people who specialize in that army normally have 3 of every unit for that army.
The cusp. I love it, KR. Cusp of getting crushed.
They're on the cusp of people who play them constantly, learning what they do well, and learning how to use them. I think they're going to sit in that 45 to 48 win rate. I don't think they're going to creep much higher than that. But they also don't have the top tier players typically playing them at this point because they're not busted. They're not something that beneficially, if you make a mistake, you can come back from. If you make a mistake with Custodes right now, you're going to get punished.
Yeah, I really think that if you would just give them back automatic, like army wide, not just detachment or anything, just pains against mortals and devs, it would make the army win percentage to spike up. And I don't think it would be too much. You don't have to give them a 4 up anymore, but if you give them a 5 up, yes. Also, 3 people, thanks for playing Death Watch, so at least they have a score.
Yep. Eldari just dropping like a lead balloon down the charts. Still a reasonable amount of players.
I still think that people, yeah, it's good, exactly. I think no one is going to cry any tears for Eldar, but I think that Eldars, people are trying to figure out what their identity is right now, and I think you're going to see the win rate be here, but then pop back up to the fifth, like basically 49, 50, 51, as people start to figure out what the identity of the list they want to play. Because Eldar still has a shit ton of lists or index, data sheets that are really, really good. Their rules are good. They just have to figure out the combinations. You can't just like derp put stuff on the board and crush with them. They're an army that takes a steady hand.
The Eldar are at the bottom of this page for the same reason that Custodes are, and Space Marines are, and Tau are. And it's because there is currently nothing that is obviously overpowered in those books. So the people who only care about winning are just not going to play them. They're not going to innovate. They're not going to try to figure out how to bust them, because they're going to get more return for their investment by playing an army that's already broken and getting good at that and trying to win those close games at the top. I don't think Tau is the worst army in the game. I don't think Space Marines are the second worst army in the game. But there's no motivation for anyone to try to figure it out right now. The armies don't have anything obviously good enough that makes the investment feel worth it if you care about winning GTs and super majors.
If the investment should feel good for, learn your lore and love your army, baby.
Yep. I mean,
Brad, how many armies have you played just this year?
3, 5.
No, it's 4. Last year I won tournaments with 7 different factions, I think.
The 5th month of the year is not over yet, Brad. You can keep your one army per month rate going, right?
I just enjoy playing the different stuff. You know what I mean? It's not just going from power to power. I just like certain armies. They're just fun. I do love new things. I get tired pretty easy of anything. So, but I really think we've been talking a lot in Tau, and I'll say the line, and you basically you quoted myself to me. I haven't loved any Tau list we've made, but I've liked them all. And that's the problem with Tau right now, is I've never felt like this is exactly what I wanted, because the Tau points, I think, did go up a little too much. And what happens is they're still fine, but because of the points, you get slightly less than you want for the army that feels like you have everything that you need. The blocking, the scoring, the damage, and the different types of damage we talk about. I have to kill Horde, I have to kill high toughness, I have to kill armor save 2 things. You have all of those options in Tau, but fitting them all in with the current point totals is difficult. Like half the time I make a Tau army, you're like, this is exactly what I would like to run, and then I was like, that is 3,000 points of Tau. Like, well,
so if you look at Space Marines, right, because they got a lot of points increases in the last balance update for points, and Tau got their new points, but they seemed a little high on especially some of the crisis suit units and a few of the other things. Is it just points for those two? Because I think Marines have a lot of good rules.
Yes,
I think Tau have a ton of good rules. I think their data sheets are good.
Oh, both of them. It's a points thing.
Points.
They put right? The problem is that they point nerf too many things. And that's the problem. Is GW goes, can this unit is it played a lot? Doesn't need a point. Okay, and then they do a small point. The problem is when you put all of those together, you don't have enough shit in your army, and that happens with a lot of those.
I'm not going to hear some boo-hooing about Tau because they can't put their hands over their eyes and shoot 1,000,000 bullets down the field while doing ooh-woos and saying, I got this.
I do think that a lot also. I was saying that too with Lyle about that. Is I think that Tau are fine. They just need you just need to figure them out. They're kind of the same thing with Eldar right now. They just need you to figure out how to put an army together and make it the most efficient army you can make it. You know what I mean? With your playstyle.
When you take away a crutch gun from the army, all right, airbursts were the crutch gun. They were on all your crisis suits, your commanders.
I assume you mean cyclics.
Cyclics, I'm sorry.
In addition to Go, he was correct. Airbursts were ridiculous.
Sorry. I'm old. Every once in a while, the brain forgets. You know, and you take that gun away, and all you own are crisis suits because you've been playing the meta. All you own is crisis suits, riptides, and that, and you're going, oh, I need to rebuild this army. There's going to be a short period of time where you have to get models, paint them up, take them to an event. So there's probably going to be a short period of time where that's going to change. I have a feeling that Tau are not in quite as bad of a spot as it's showing, but they're not a 60% win rate army either.
Yeah, I'm not trying to. Someone in chat said, I think it's Eloise talking about child players crying that they're not broken. I don't think that's not the point. I'm not indicating that they should be broken. My point is that their win rate's not going to go up unless there is something that seems above average there. Like even this weekend, like Siegler, who's like, you know, the Tau person on the internet right now, I guess. Him and Kyle Grundy. Siegler didn't take Tau this weekend. Siegler played Votan. Mm-hmm. Like there's nothing to motivate top players to go try to figure out how to win a GT with Tau when you could just do other stuff. So that's just the army. The win rate's not going to go up if people aren't trying to break it. That's just what it is. That
was also a teams event that he was playing in, and the Tau Codex was not legal yet for that one because
it wasn't legal on that one.
The list had to be submitted by, I think, yeah.
I'd also like to say that my Tau person on the internet is Brandon Valley, and then Lyle Dixon, and then probably Brad, and then Tom, I guess. All of you who play the same stupid friggin' armies.
I do love that one.
If you move to the Ohio, Michigan area, you'll end up playing Tau too.
Yeah, we have all of the Tau players.
No, we don't like guns. I like my knives and axes and stuff.
Lyle's superhero name, Cope Man.
I don't sure if that's what you feel like. I don't feel like I'm pulling a Brandon right now. I'm just being realistic about it. I think the army's better than Brandon thinks it is. I just don't think people are going to go out and try to like break it. There's just like, why would they do that when they could go play orcs? Why would they do that if they could go play Chaos Space Marines? Like, there's no reason to.
I think that they're out the gate a little low. I think they'll be in that mid 40s bracket shortly. And I still think, and people are going to disagree with me, I think that Kroot Hunting Pack's going to be the list for a little bit, just because I think it consistently scores really well. And then we'll see how it goes after, a month and a half from now when the points get adjusted again.
All I'm saying is I want to point out the Lyle, because we have clearly significant data for the Kroot Hunting Pack. 80% win rate, man.
Was that Kyle Grundy?
I don't know. It's just one player. So.
I'm pretty sure that was Kyle. He's been on Kroot Hunting Pack a lot. I still don't think Kroot Hunting Pack works. Like I don't think there's any rules argument you can make that it works.
Dean, were you here when I gave your tournament props? Because if not, rewatch this. It was Grundy. If someone donates $100, I'll play Kroot Detachment this week. Dude, I gotta get my mojo together. Like, saying that is just giving him any reason whatsoever. The Kroot guy wants to play Kroot.
Shocker.
Yeah.
So, Brad, I know we're kind of done talking about the meta, right? Like, we didn't super get into our games at Mayhem with Dean, so I want to go back to that and just ask, like, talk about some of the games that you played, what you liked with your list, what you didn't like, and then what was like hard for you during the weekend.
I needed more trash. The way I play, I'm the trash man. Do I have my trash man up here? I need more stuff. So what I'm doing is I took my 2 10-man units of knobs, and I'm turning them into 1 10-man and 2 5-mans, and I added another war boss into my list. I didn't really like the second Mega Knob list if I'm not playing Bully, and I wanted more bodies and I wanted more OC, so I straight swapped out a unit of Mega Knobs and the Mega Knob War Boss, and I put in a Beast Boss and a unit of Beast Snagger Boys, which gives me more bodies, but it also gives me OC2 on that unit and 10 bodies, and they give full rerolls, and he does Devastating Wounds, and I did want some Devastating Wounds in my list, because the Beast Boss does Devastating Wounds on the charge, and he gets full reels, and you get explosions with the Warhorde. So that's a big deal for me on that. I added another unit of Gretchen, and added another unit of Gretchen. Those are the changes. Oh, sorry, and I added one more unit of flash kits. So I'm running 3x5 flash kits now for a real skirmishing style with the flash kits, because shooting 20 times and then charging and getting 20 attacks will just clear out most anything, because they're just knobs with big guns. So those are the things that I changed from the weekend, and I really liked, getting those reps in, because I liked kind of where the list was, but getting to feel it on the board, playing against really hyper aggressive armies that played against me, made me realize that I just needed a little bit more screen, a little bit more scoring. These armies like your World Eater armies, your other Orc armies, your Wolf Jails, all of these things that want to take the board, want to put you in the back, you need for to be able to screen them out. And I didn't think that I had enough to screen them out, and I like the changes quite a bit, and I'm very excited to play it this weekend.
Cool.
What did you think about?
What did you like about your list, and what would you change, edit?
I honestly wouldn't edit too much. I think that I kind of skated by this tournament with people not really knowing demons. Again, it's the fact that a lot of people don't understand how they function, like how many uppy downs they can do and when it can happen. And specifically, like taking fix. And, me and Brad talked about this multiple times on the weekend, and he kind of laughed, but he also kind of cringed at it. I'm taking fix. I usually take deploy and cleanse, so I have to perform 3 actions a turn. And he's just like, how are you doing that?
Yeah, well, I just don't get it. The whole weekend, I'm like, I don't understand how you're doing 3 actions every turn.
You start actions without controlling the points, and then you flood them, and then you control them, and you get your points. It's easy. And then once you can 3-inch deep strike Nurglings into a corner of the board for deploy, people either have to go back and put time into Nurglings, which is just annoying, or they just let you score your 4 points. That's how I won all my games, was just dropping things into annoying areas and scoring points with them.
Yeah, and I think if people had more stuff, it would have been harder for them. But if they knew how it worked more, to be honest with you, let's zoom back up to the top again.
Yeah, if people knew how demons worked more, I couldn't get away with it as much. And I will say that a couple people influenced the decision specifically for this. Josh Minnick and Sean and Lyle were giving input on all of the lists, and we kind of got on the demonettes specifically, and I was pretty down on them for a while, and they were pretty all right. But the Keeper of Secrets was hands down like the MVP all weekend. Chungus does what he does. He stands on points and he hits the button, and he just can't be removed. He never died in any game. But the Keeper of Secrets just rolls around.
How many people tried?
2. The Thousand Suns player tried at the very end to kill him, and he just didn't have enough damage left. He could have if he focused him early, but I just hit him for most of the game.
I did like your one player that found out that the Keeper that monsters can just do actions while in combat. So apparently the Great Unclean One was going about his daily 9-to-5 job while being attacked. Basically, it's
just standing in there, just hitting the button repeatedly, and then turning around and hitting people with a sword is pretty sweet.
Like, hold on, guys, I got to take my lunch break and battle these guys real quick. Let's go to the wall real quick. How would you fix Squig Hogs? The 4-man squads are now just really awkward, especially with the B spot. The knob on Smash a Squig is just so wildly worse than it used to be. And they're awkwardly sized. I don't know if they need to be fixed as much, but like I don't want to run a bunch of them, so they're just not the most efficient thing I can put as skirmishing, because I don't want to spend 160 when I can do things like take flash kits for 80 points and do similar things and just shoot and punch people for less and just be better. So how we fix the remaining, there's a lot of remaining units to do that. I think custodes are always going to be very, very hard to balance. I don't ever think we've even had a sweet spot for custodes. Custodes have always felt they were either wildly too good or not good enough.
They're either good or meh.
Yeah. And I think knights are super easy to balance. You just basically roll back the points and give them back their bondsman. I don't think you should have taken that shit away in the first place. Knights were never a problem. After, we lost Towering and Dev, You know what I mean? I don't think knights were ever an issue. So, and they took away their ability to Overwatch, and I'd say you don't give that back to them, but you give them back bondsmen, and you roll back their points. And I think knights would be at a really sweet, nice place. I think they would win, like 48 to 52 kind of thing.
So and in that, Brad, there was asking how do we fix the remaining Forge World units we have, i.e. custodes and knights. I actually think you're going to start seeing more and more Forge World stuff go away, especially as they keep rolling stuff into plastic. And I have a feeling at some point in the next 3 years, we will probably lose almost all the Forge World stuff.
That makes me sad, but Brandon with a $4.99 super chat. We retracted what we were going to say. What do you want to say? Woohoo! I appreciate it though. So throw it up in chat. But we, you know what I really do want of most dreadnoughts, especially the Forge World dreadnoughts, just need to be cheaper / move faster, or both. In my opinion on that, there's just a lot of dreads that I would like to see get more play, but they're just not that efficient because they just don't get into the game. You know what I mean? If you can't get places, I never see myself bringing a Gladys or something because it's just I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not interacting with the game for multiple turns because I'm so slow. And that's just a big thing, especially when you're playing with, anything that costs, more than 180. You want it to be able to do something fairly soon, and you want to be able to do it more than once.
All right, are we at promotions time and where we're going to be coming up?
We are at promotions time. We are ready to talk about 40klorecast.com. Go to the Discord for the 40K Lorecast. It is ready to roll. It has all of the things, some of the stuff. I will put a link for it. Copied. Pasted. I will be at the Rocky Top Open this weekend playing the Orcs, and I will be teaching a class at 6 o'clock right after the games are done on day one about player, place, terrain, and deployment.
And of course, we have the Salt City GT, thesaltcitygt.com. Tickets are starting to go a little quicker. Go sign up today. August 9th, 10th, and 11th in Syracuse, New York. Modified Games Workshop terrain. We will be using the new data pack because it looks like it's coming out well before time. And hopefully we'll have the minute the player pack drops for 40K, the new one up.
I'm going to give people a little bit of the fire. Lyle, Kyle, where are you guys going to be? Where are you going to be playing games at?
My computer chair and on the internet.
This is true. Kyle did tell me that he really dislikes leaving his house. So
it's pretty scary out there.
I am taking signups for summer classes for the Lyle Dixon School for people who want to do math good and cope and do other stuff good too. So if you're interested in any of those classes, let me know.
You and Zoolander are teaching them together?
They were Zoolander's helping me out. But they were highly demanded based on internet community feedback. So
I love everything about this. Let's sign us off, Lyle.
Stay milky, my friends.